Good day and welcome to another GM Tips. GM Rick here. I wanted to go over with you the topic of writing your own module. Now, campaign we've already talked about, but let's look at writing your own module or adventure path, whatever you want to call it. What's the difference between the two in my mind? A module is a finite, maybe, 18 to 32 page book that, or compilation. We won't always call it a book because you may not be publishing, you may not be doing anything other than using it for your own campaign. So let's just say it's an 18 to 32 page document with maps and other type of things you want to have in there, handouts for your players. So that's a module. An adventure path, in my mind, is more like 64-page bites. And I'm taking this off of Paizo's way of doing things because they had to set a number for themselves, so I've kind of adopted it as well. And adventure paths can be up to 6 parts, and they are about 64 pages in length. So they're a much longer ongoing adventure in writing. Not to make the pun, but it really is. So what do you need to know going in? And I think these are always helpful things because most all of us who are playing these games are creatives in some way, shape, or form. We like to create. We like to plan. We like to design a story and run a story. We really do like to create. And so what are some of the things you need to know so that you don't fall down what I call the mire of never completing the module? First, write yourself a synopsis of the module. And what is a synopsis? Basically, a synopsis is a 2 to 4 page document where you start out with an intro, kind of the background of the story. What is the story path here and where are you going with it? And then you flesh out, after you've taken that, and usually, how long is that? That's generally no more than a page where you go down, because you're not trying to write a whole complete module right then and there. You're trying to get in your mind what you are trying to create. What are the basic things? So, player meets this NPC. This NPC needs them to go on a quest for the following item for these reasons. Here's the background of how important this thing is to this NPC and why, and to the story arc. So you go through and kind of lay out why all of this has to occur, and what are the background, what's the background that leads this to have to occur, and what are the consequences if it doesn't occur? If the players don't adopt it, what will happen to said NPC, to said area of the world, to said city, to said religion, to said whatever you're writing it around. So when you're doing this, you really want to lay this out in your mind. Okay, and a great example is I'm working on a mini module with Loresmith for Loresmith Games. That's Chris. I've taken up the Kickstarter with him, and this is my first time working with him. So one of the things he said to me is, Rick, write me a synopsis. And I gave him a one-page synopsis. It was very A, B, C, D. He's like, more, Rick, give me more. And that's where I sat there and thought about, for me, writing a one-page is enough. Writing for someone else, having multiple pages isn't a bad thing. So what I did is I took through and I fleshed out, here's a character who has a problem. This problem is this. So I'm not going to give away any of the things in it, but this is the problem, this is the background of why this is a problem, and this is why he needs to enlist the aid of the characters. Now, mind you, I also put in there, if the characters want to aid him, great. If they want to aid the person who he's having the problem with, great. If they want to take it for themselves and go their own direction, great. So I give freedom in this while I'm doing the synopsis. I'm kind of going, okay, where can we go with this? Because again, a lot of times we want to lock players into a linear story. When you write the synopsis, don't do that. You kind of write down the story as you envision it, but you also have to give freedom of thought of what other directions could the PCs take. Don't go wild with this because you don't want to put down 60 different things. Otherwise, you'll never get the synopsis done. Pick 4 or 5 main, 3 to 4, 3 to 5. Let's go there. 3 to 5 main different directions that they can go with that story arc. That way, then you have some things prepped out in general for this. With that synopsis, you want to define how many pages. In my case, my page is a 15-page mini module. I can't exceed that. That is what we have available. So I have to make all of this work in 15 pages. So that really takes me refining and pulling myself in. Set for yourself a page limit. That's why I mentioned earlier, 32 pages, 16 pages, 64 pages. You need to set yourself that framework. And then as you do that with the synopsis, set out what those pages are going to be. Page 1 and 2, background, and introduction of player 2 story arc. Pages this through this, the actual adventure itself. Pages this through this, the appendix with key information. And what are the different appendices? Maybe it's plot arcs. Maybe it's of results and where it could go. Maybe it's NPCs. Maybe it's other things that are key to the story, like magic items or new monsters. You have to set out a set amount of pages. Otherwise, what you're going to do is you're going to write for that and then go, oh crap, I need an appendix. Oh crap, I need this. Oh crap, I need that. Lay out an outline for yourself. Otherwise, what you're going to do is you're not going to allow yourselves the ability to put in everything you're going to want to put in. And so I would say that right now is that you don't want to go down a rabbit hole you can't come out of. And that's what happens. Too often, we will not write a synopsis ahead of time. We're not going to write a framework for our adventure. Now, some of you are really good at that, and that's why you get things done and get these done in a reasonable time. A good majority of us don't. And so we get stuck out there, and we're like, oh, geez, where do I go now? Or, oh, man, I should have done this or that. Keep to the task. Focus. And that is a hard thing for a creative. Focus. You've got to focus in on that one tree sometimes. Even though you see that whole forest of what could be, focus on the tree. That's the best way I can put it on that. So what's next? Okay, so now you've got the synopsis. Now you've got the outline. Start from the beginning. Write your pages that deal with how your characters are going to interact from your synopsis. That's a big start of it. Because once you get that written out, you're going to look at that and go, okay, here's how I want to take the actual fleshing out of what I've kind of talked about in the synopsis. Because the next part of the synopsis is writing out the actual encounters and what you're going to run into. So, when you write out the synopsis portion of it, what you're doing in there, and I should have mentioned this a little earlier, see, going with the plan here. What you have to do is sit down and say, okay, the party from this intro is going to go here. Then this is going to be next. But if they have this situation, here's the 2 areas this can branch off. And you start building how your encounters are going to be inside. And what are the possible outcomes from those encounters? You want to flesh that out a little bit in the synopsis. Bob talks to Mary. I'm going to sound like a book writer. A to B storybooks. Bob talks to Mary. Mary, when he's talking with Mary, he finds out that Mary says that there is a hidden tomb out this way. However, Bob digs in a little bit more to find out more about, is the tomb the answer? Mary also mentions that there are 2 or 3 other people that may have knowledge outside of the tomb area that may give some more insight. Ooh, okay. So, if Bob just goes with the tomb, Bob doesn't learn about all this other knowledge. But if Bob asks a few more questions to Mary, he gets 2 more places Bob can go. See where I'm going with this? This way you've got a kind of a, it's like people write out flowcharts, if-thens. If this, then this. If this, then this. If this, then this. Not a bad thing to do. And even if you want to do that, that's not a bad way of going with things. Because what it does is it keeps you on task to the if-thens. That way everything gets fleshed out into the story. Now, make sure when you're writing that section, you say, jump ahead to this section in order to get this information. That's why writing out an outline is important, because you can write out what section is going to be what. And that becomes the next part of doing the adventure. What section? That's the child. That's Mini GM. You will hear her from time to time singing. So you want to write out, after the synopsis and you start getting into the adventure, the sections. A section, B section, 1.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. What you're going to do then is you allow yourself to say in that first writing, if this question's asked, go to section 1.4, go to section 1.6, go to section 2.5. Then you can guide yourself, because you're going to forget. Or if you publish this for someone else, you're going to guide them to the section they need to be in. From there, begin writing the sections. Take them on one section at a time. Now, you can do the thing of, like I said, if Bob asks this and Mary says go to here. If you want to write out those sections, fine. No problem. That numbering those sections will allow you to do that. But don't get so jumped around that you don't follow the flow, because then you'll never get it done in an orderly, organized time. And that comes to the next part. Set yourself a time goal. I want to have this written by this date. Now, it's going to shift some. It always does. Like in mine. I was going to work on my mini module for Laura Smith this weekend. I got the sinus migraine from wherever that just beat me over the head for 2 days. Best laid intentions, right? But because I have that goal looming, I still need to push myself to get things done. Not to be chintzy, not to be weird, not to cut out sections. I still need to keep to a goal, because if I don't keep to that goal, I'll never get it done. Other things in life will overshadow it, and it never gets completed. So you have to set yourself a timeline, and you can even set milestones. I know I'm hitting you with things that engineers do and people that work on projects. Some of you do, and this sounds very familiar. There's a reason why you do this, because if you set milestones, you'll accomplish them with dates. Otherwise, it doesn't get done. It keeps getting pushed off. And by the time you do get to it, you've forgotten half the storyline that you wanted to do anyways. So set yourself achievable goals. Allow yourself a little room, a little flexion in there. But try to keep to the goals. It's very important. In other words, if you want to get it published and done, you gotta work on it to get done. And again, published, I use the term loosely. You might be publishing with somebody in the world of gaming. You may be just publishing it for yourself and your players. Either way, published. So where do you go from here? You're going to hit writer's block at times. So what you have to do is take a break, take a breath, clear your mind. And I'm a deep believer in meditative techniques. Now you'll go, wow, Rick, doesn't that conflict with some of the beliefs we know about you? No, I've learned in life, meditation is a good thing. So you have to set yourself some downtime that you meditate and let your mind clear and refocus. You're going to hit blocks. So maybe what you do is you go brew yourself a cup of coffee, right? Take a drink. Sit back. Take some real deep breaths. Long, deep breaths. So you take them in, hold them, let them out. Focus your mind in on one thing. Maybe it's that one thing you're trying to do. Let everything else fall away. And then let your mind go. And your mind will refocus and get you to where you need to be. Now, if that doesn't work, sometimes picking up some other material and reading how other people have done things. Sometimes picking up a module isn't a bad thing to do. And maybe you read into it until you get that aha idea. Then you put down the module and go back to working on what you were working on. We all need that. We all run into it. I don't care how long you've been doing things, creative writer block is a fact of life. You will have it. It will occur. You will get to the point of going, oh crap, I had a great idea, but now how am I going to do this? You're going to have it. So make sure you take that time to clear your mind and get yourself back on track. Then, when you're done with a rough outline, and that's what the first go is going to be, a rough outline. Don't publish the first go. Don't run with your first go. It never pans out, okay? It just doesn't. Unless you're this amazing writer that just everything flows in one flowing waterfall. And I say that tongue in cheek because none of us ever have that. You got to get another set of eyes on it. So what you're going to do is take that draft and give it to someone else who games with you, who's not going to be involved with that module maybe, and let them look at it. In my case, I give it to Loresmith, who I'm writing for, and I let him mark it up, and I let him have creative verse. Now, he doesn't understand Pathfinder. He understands D&D. And what I'm doing for Pathfinder, he's not always going to understand all the Pathfinder mechanics behind it, but he's learned. Okay? I'm his expert there. What he's looking for is content. Is it hitting the high points that he wants to see in there? Because he gave me his idea of where he wanted to see it go, and let me then outline it, synopsis it, and run with it. So he's going to give me that critique, and I have to be open to that critique. The one thing, folks, that we get a little bit spicy with is that's our baby when we work on it. We see the module or the adventure path as our baby. And when somebody steps in and says, well, you know, that sounds okay. What about this? We get defensive. Because now you're attacking me. You're saying I'm not good enough. I'm not this. How dare you do this? How dare you mark this up? You were supposed to give me an A+ the first time out of the box. Sound familiar, folks? I've been there. I've been cocky enough to say, how dare you? When their idea was very good. And in fact, it was better than mine. And in fact, it corrected a couple things that if I would have listened, would have worked. So from now on, what I do is I put my ego, I check it at the door. When I'm writing, I check the ego because I don't have all the answers. And maybe something sounded good in my head that when it hit the paper, it doesn't sound as good. So getting that extra, well, you know, that sounded pretty good, but what if you did this? I got to sit back and mull on it a little bit and say, you know what? That's interesting. And I had Loresmith do that. I mean, Chris did that to me a couple times. He went, how about this, Rick? And I'm like, or he goes, nah, Rick, I don't like that. It doesn't take it where I want to go. Or help me to understand where you're going with this. And it was all what I needed to get my mind around it. And I'm thankful to him for it. Because, yeah, okay, at the time when you hear the critique, nobody loves it. It's painful. But after you give it a little bit of time to mull and really ferment in your mind, all of a sudden you start getting your mind around it. And you go, you know what, that might just work. I like that. And so always be open to critique. Somebody's not saying you're a bad writer. The people are not looking at you and making fun of your work or trying to say that they know better. They're just reading it and hearing how it flows. And maybe to them it doesn't make as much sense. But because they're not in your shoes and they're not so entrenched into this thing and emotionally invested in this thing, they're able to see things you wouldn't see. And maybe they're able to do things you can't. That's why when people write shows and write, movies, there is a team. Why? Because the team helps each other to complete thoughts in a more cohesive way that makes sense. Successful teams make Avatar, or Titanic, or let's pick another one, Star Wars, or Star Trek. And they succeed where we didn't think about it, Pacific Rim. They put out these amazing things, but it's a team effort. It's not one person that put it all together. That one person realized we needed a team to get it to the screen. Same way with getting your module done. You need a little bit of a team to help you through those moments. So don't be afraid to do that. And then at the end, realize that you're good at certain things. You're good maybe at the writing of the text. Well, maybe you're not good at the art. So you enlist somebody's help that's good with the art. Or maybe you're not good with maps and laying out of terrain. So you get a Devin Root Inc. to help you with that. Yes, Devin, I'm giving you a plug. To help you with that map. And if you haven't seen Devin's stuff, please go and see her stuff. I'm telling you right now, you'll want her publishing for you. You will when it comes to maps. So you get those people involved that can help you to get it there. And then make sure, now if you're this is only for if you're publishing, that you include in the place that they want it the open license material that you need, and do your research. Now, as my friend in person I'm publishing with, Laura Smith, said, "Oh my God, I need a team of lawyers to figure this out." Yeah, sometimes you do. And sometimes they leave it that way because they legally themselves don't want to get into trouble. So they've got their team of lawyers who said, get a team of lawyers. I know, right? It sounds crazy when we're trying to put out creative material, but sometimes you need that extra help. And you need to understand as best as you can how to lay it out. So keep that in mind. All right, I hope this helps. I hope I gave you guys some great ideas in this. Again, I didn't get into every nut and bolt of it, but I try to give you the basic framework, I think, that'll help you to get things done. Because the rest of it you're going to figure out and get there with. It's more the framework and the time frame that I think people run into the worst challenges with. So keep that in mind as you're laying this out. If you do your work ahead of time and you really lay out the groundwork for it, you'll get to the goal. You will. And make sure, like I say, you've got the people helping you, whether it's a editor, whether it's a person just to be a second set of eyes, and give them, and I forgot this, and give them credit. Wherever they do the work, give them credit, please. They take the time out of their very valuable time to help you out. Don't take this all as your own. And don't sit there and then say, yeah, I did all this. Oh, crap. Give credit where credit's due. And really be gracious in doing so. Because chances are when you need them again, they'll help you out. And they will enjoy it because it helps them along with their repertoire that they're building. So don't be afraid to give credit where credit's due. And really publish in there. If you're going to publish something, put the names on what they did. And call it out. And ask them how they want to be put in there. Because that's very important. And you know, I'm not going to go into compensation and the rest. There's enough videos on that if you're doing actual publishing for Kickstarters and stuff. But just keep in mind that there's a way of doing things. And please do it just for the sake of the community and helping everybody out. So that's it. That's my take on how to create an adventure, how to lay things out. The actual designing something and talking about brainstorming, I'll do some other videos down the line on, or some other short clips of 24 minutes. I'm really trying to keep there, 22 to 24 minutes. So thank you to the wonderful people that have suggested, Rick, keep it simple, keep it short, and keep it sweet. I really appreciate you guys. That was some great critique, and have a great week of gaming.